All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the Madison City Council September 27th meeting to order. And with that, we have the invocation from Dr. Andrea Robinson, from pastor at Building Church.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the blessings that you grace us with every day and the opportunity to serve our community. Lord, I pray that you would grant wisdom to our city and state leaders, our Mayor Paul Finley, Huntsville Mayor Tommy Battle, and our Governor Kay Ivey. Lord, I pray that you would also guide our Madison City Council and all of our civil servants. Help them lead with fortitude and insight. We ask that you would protect them and their families as they serve our community. God, we ask that you would also protect our police officers, our firefighters, our first responders, and our military as they selflessly give of themselves. I lift up in particular the meeting this evening. I pray that there would be dialogue and a spirit of unity and grace. Let any perceived problems be viewed as opportunities for growth and progress. I ask that you would give each council member and each person in attendance wisdom, God. Lord, help us steward your resources well. Lord, give us creative solutions to problems and give us favor as we move your community forward. We ask for your continued favor over our community, God. We thank you for allowing us to live in such a beautiful, safe, and prosperous area, God. Help us always be cognizant of our blessings and help us in turn serve our community well, regardless of what position we hold, Lord. We thank you and we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. And please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get the roll call, please?
Mayor Finley?
Here.
Councilmember Robleski?
Here.
Councilmember Spears?
Here.
Councilmember Powell?
Here.
Council President Shaw?
Here.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Here.
Councilmember Denzine?
Here.
Councilmember Seifert?
Here.
And we have a quorum, so we'll move forward. Are there any amendments to the current agenda? If not, we'll move forward with the one that's provided. I'll ask for approval of minutes from the September 13th meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? May I have the vote, please?
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
The motion passes. And for the September 15th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Can I have the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
The motion passes. There's no presentation and awards tonight. We'll move into public comments. Is there anyone that would like to address council and mayor tonight? If not, we'll move into the consent agenda and finance committee report.
Finance committee met this evening and we discussed some items on the budget. Things seem to be in order. We'll be presenting the budget later on this evening under my line. Consent agenda, I wanted to point out a couple donations. Chambers Bottling Company was for $43.20 to the fire department donation. Also to the fire department line is Alabama Pipeline Awareness Cooperative Training for an amount of $750,000, and a donation from Madison Visionary Partners in the amount of $42,902.70, and that's for the Rotary Pavilion and Home Place Park. gonna go into the bond account, 2015 bond account. That'll make a motion.
Excuse me, Teddy, I'm sorry, Councilmember Powell, the donation from the Alabama Pipeline Awareness was how much?
$750.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Can I have the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Roblesky,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
And motion passes. Moving to, presentation of reports, and we'll start with the mayor.
Okay, and I know we'll get to budget in a little bit, and I have a presentation at that time. We did have a redistricting meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. One of the things about it, I guess first and foremost, is the presentation itself and the maps will be added to our website, so we'll get that up tomorrow. I think Samantha can put a special tab in there where folks can see what was presented. But basically what they came in and did is they gave us 5 different steps that the redistricting will look at, and it comes from the 2020 census. And the first question is to determine if redistricting is necessary. And I think we all redistricting is an opportunity for us to reevaluate and in essence equal out districts. And so there's no question it was necessary. The next 4 steps at some point will be to provide the public awareness and seek input, develop a new plan, provide for the public review and adoption, and then the implementation. One of the things that we ask at that time, because we put together the Governance Transition Committee, is if we are looking at a couple of different things, does it make sense to wait until the end of this year, once we get back the recommendations from that committee, before we would ask Mike to look to make some changes? He said it would, but we also, in that case, when it comes to redistricting and the potential for governance transition, Megan Zingarelli, our city attorney, also presented to council at that time a few things that would possibly go along with that. And Megan, if you'd come up, I want to make sure we go ahead and let everyone know kind of what that looks like. And I'll take the first slide that she has, or I guess you put it up there. But if you go to slide 1, you know, we asked basically this committee 2 questions. Should Madison stagger its council mayor elections, and if so, when? Should Madison change the current form of government, and if so, why? And the second part of that was basically for Mike, and it was basically, okay, if we're going to change the possibility of government, which, as Megan will tell you, how legally we would do, and the community is definitely a part of that, does it make sense to wait a couple months until we figure that out? So he said yes, but in doing that, Megan, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure thing. So for the initial decision point of whether the city should set staggered terms for city council members, want to go into a little bit about what that means in practice and also how that gets into practice legally. So what it would mean for the city to have staggered terms is that every other year the citizens would elect 3 or 4 city council members, and then that way you wouldn't have full city council and mayor turnover every 4 years. So that ensures a little bit more continuity and stability for the city's governance. The governance transition team is also studying which form of government would work best for Madison going forward, and they're going to formulate a recommendation to the city council and the mayor by the end of the year. And this isn't the first time that the city has studied this. Back in 2015, another group studied this very intently and visited with many city managers across the state and looked how other cities did that. And the governance transition team is kind of just doing a recap of that and updating that study for this council. So they're going to be looking at the following questions. Should the city just continue with the current mayor-council form of government that's in place? Should the city transition to a mayor-council form of government with an appointed official city manager? Or should the city formally transition to the council manager form of government under the Council Manager Act of 1982 and then have a setup where the city-appointed city manager is the CEO of the city for all intents and purposes, and then the city council becomes a 6-member body with the mayor as the 7th voting member that represents the public at large and becomes, more of a, I wouldn't say just a figurehead, because that mayor would still have a lot of of authority and would essentially be the city council president for all intents and purposes moving forward. So it's a very different legal setup from what the city has now, so it's a major step if the city decides to do that. So we wanted to talk a little bit about how redistricting fits in with these potential changes. So the staggered terms is just kind of a standalone issue, and it can go on a parallel track while the city decides if it wants to make a form of government transition. If council chooses to move forward with staggered terms, then we have to seek legislative approval for that. We can do that as early as the next legislative session, early next year, and then once that gets in place, the council just has to decide whether or not it's going to have staggered terms at least 4 months ahead of the next election, which is not until 2025. So lots of time to decide that. And how that's set up is that the odd-numbered council seats would serve an initial 2-year term starting in 2025, which is the next general election. And then in 2027, they would be up for re-election and would serve 4-year terms after that. And then the even-numbered council seats and the mayor would serve an initial 4-year term and just keep going on the 4-year cycle from there. If the city stays with a mayor-council form of government, then redistricting can just proceed with the 7 city council districts as modified by the redistricting report, which Mr. Slaughter talked about earlier. And that's true even if the city council does appoint a city manager pursuant to existing provisions in state law without transitioning formally to the council manager form of government. And here I'd like to note that under this second scenario, it could be a little bit problematic if the city council just appoints a city manager itself, because under the current law, the mayor has CEO authority, but so would this city manager. And so you can see where those roles could butt heads from time to time. But under the council manager form of government, which is set out in state law, the roles are so much more clear. And so that's why the 2015 group recommended that council manager form of government. And so under that form of government, the redistricting would need to take into account 6 districts instead of 7, with the mayor being that 7th voting member. And the earliest we could know that would be mid to late 2022, because there's a very extensive process under the law that needs to happen to put that into effect. So I'd like to quickly review the timeline, the potential timeline for all of this to happen. By the end of the year, the Governance Transition Committee should have its report and recommendation to the mayor and the city council ready. And then if they do recommend staggered terms, then you can start talking with the legislature in early 2022, and we can work up a draft and all of that and get that to the legislature. But then if the committee recommends and you all agree, or even if the committee doesn't recommend and you still want to go forward with it, there's a long process for putting into place a council manager form of government. It all kicks off with a petition of Madison residents, and the city would have to have at least 900 signatures in favor of that, and that number is based on the number of electors in the last election. So if that many people want to move forward with that transition, then the mayor would have to issue an election proclamation in coordination with a probate judge's office, and then the city council would approve what actually goes on the ballot. So we would expect that the council would approve the 7 voting members and ask the residents, do you want to transition to the city manager form of government? And are you okay with us having 6 council seats and the mayor as a voting member? Once that's set, the special election would actually be held, and then you would transmit the results to the governor, the secretary of state, and the probate judge. At that time, that would probably be the opportune time to complete the redistricting process, because then you would know for sure if you're going to have 6 council districts or 7. And so it would take, other public hearings to get to the point of completing that redistricting process. So a lot would be going on here, but that would be the time that you would know. So the earliest that could happen would be mid to late 2022. And then the city, if that was approved, then the city staff would kind of transition into the mode of getting ready for that new form of government, because it would require a lot of administrative changes that we would need to put into place. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Any questions?
All right. So again, Government Transition Committee will do their part, and in turn, when we get to the end of the year, we'll have a better idea, and at that point, we'll move forward with the redistricting. The Slaughter folks had done this in 2010. He also told me he did it in 2000, so they're very familiar with Madison, and we'll continue to move forward. So with that said, that's on redistricting. I also wanted to talk a minute about traffic, and I know our, Michelle Dunstan, if you got 2 seconds to come up there, or Steve, whoever, whichever one y'all decided, the one thing we want to talk about is Hughes Road, and I want, we continue to follow up on that. We recognize it's not moving, but I think, Michelle, you had some good information maybe for council tonight and the public as far as maybe a little bit of why.
So basically, we've finished out the hydro excavation, and we've taken the elevation shots on all the existing utilities that are out there. Our consultant has reworked through the east side storm sewer, and so that's now in for internal review, and once we have that, Carcel and G should be able to restart, and there should be some activity out there.
And in the paving.
Oh, as far as the Mid-South paving, so we have been trying to get, we're having issues actually contacting them. So when we think it may be that they're short-staffed, like most places around here right now, they're having issues finding workers. So we are working with them in hopes of trying to get a crew here in order to fix up the entrance drives to the residential neighborhoods and for the commercial areas. We are aware that they are in need of repair as soon as we can get that.
Perfect. So we'll stay on that. I really appreciate Michelle. She's working about 5 or 6 different projects right now and trying to keep up in almost every instance. Weather had, last week, the Balch and Gillespie roundabout had slowed. It's back going full steam today. But thank you for you continuing to follow up on them. And I know it's in the second part of traffic was, and I'll let you go, thank you, is the schools. One of the things we've done is meet with our school officials, talking about the different traffic areas, especially with the new elementary school, but also some of the other stacking issues that we're having at Heritage, Columbia, basically Mill Creek is one. We are aware of that. We met to talk about what we could possibly do collectively and collaboratively. I think we had a pretty good game plan for Mill Creek. We're working on Heritage. And then also the fact that, the schools on County Line, it's a 55-mile-an-hour road, and, we've got to get folks slowed down there during school hours, and we're working on some solutions there. What I'm really proud of is for the middle school, collaboratively with the schools, we did a much better job of trying to get ahead of the game, and the roads projects are either started there or will continue, in that part of it by saying that on Hughes, we recognize there were some rough spots on a couple of different places. We pulled our Public Works team in today, knowing that paving probably wasn't going to get done for a little bit, and they came in and made some quick adjustments on several of the different little intersections where there was potholes or just dips. And so, as always, Public Works is kind of the unsung heroes that come in and take care of things that we rarely see but make a huge difference. So with that said, I know we'll talk a little bit more about budget here in a minute, but that's all I have.
Very good. And district number 1.
Yes, sir. I have one item for your consideration tonight. It's Resolution 2021-295-R. This is a resolution to make changes to the job classification plans, specifically for our MPD officers, our engineering inspector, to get him in line with the other building inspectors. And so HR met last week, and we have unanimously approved this, and we bring it forward to you tonight. And I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Can I have the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Council President Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye. And the motion passes.
Thank you all for that. Wanted to mention that Councilmember Denzine and I had the pleasure of attending Major Stringer's going away party, where we all wished him well and thanked him again for his work with the city. I also asked Michelle for an update for the roundabout, so I specifically have this answer. Wiregrass is currently working on the north leg of the intersection. Additional undercut was required due to unsuitable material. The anticipated completion date is October 29th. And we, as Mayor mentioned, we've lost some time due to the storm of Ida and the weather. We had a lot of rain, and also the contractor with having issues with that. And so we are pushed back a little bit for that date. But I have been to take a peek at it, and they are making fabulous progress. Wanted to thank everyone that was involved with the homecoming parade that we had for James Clemens last week. Great turnout, beautiful I guess they would call it Chamber of Commerce weather. Want to let you know that the next parade is Thursday, October 14th, and that will be the Bob Jones Parade. Hope to see everyone out there for that. And I'd like to give a special shout out to Dustin and our building department, our code enforcement team. You may have seen that there was a trailer at the corner of Gillespie and Waltriana, just south of West Madison Elementary School, that has been there since before all of us were here, and it has been removed. And I just want to thank him for his work with that. That area already looks a lot better. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. District number 2.
I wanted to echo what Mara said about the parade and Dustin, and also engineering. I know y'all are going through a whole lot of issues with contractors and frustrated people, and I know you're doing the best you can. I appreciate it. We had a Madison Utilities meeting last Monday night. We're still having issues on Highlands, trying to get more contractors in there to help finish it up. But the project is coming to a completion. Then they will go back and make sure all of the yards are up to snuff and everything looks good there. I have a TARCOG meeting tomorrow night. I hope to have a report out of that for our next meeting. And the upcoming budget was a whole lot of work. I wanted to thank everybody that had a hand in putting it together, but especially Teddy for sitting down with me and answering all my questions and going through it, in detail. Thank you. And that's all.
District number 3.
So under my line item, we've got the budget, the annual budget for approval tonight, and I'd just like to thank all the committee members that were on there, and all the department heads, the citizens that contributed, the mayor's office, everybody. I mean, it was certainly a team effort, and thought we came up with a good budget. We got a lot of growth, so we're having to pay for that. And one way that we did that was through our employees, and I'll let the mayor. He's going to do a presentation, and he'll kind of cover some of those highlights. And like I said, I'm glad I was part of it, and wanted to thank Roger specifically for getting all that information together. I told him I wouldn't, but I did.
I want to see the whooping coming, because he said he was going to do it if you said anything. Yeah, so this budget process was, again, a great one to go through. But I want to start here with what I know all of us in Madison are really proud of, and that's the city that we live in and that we manage. A couple weeks ago, we were named number 12 in the 50 best places to live in the United States by Money Magazine. And I thought it was interesting when it came to the criteria that they put on that, the 9 pieces they had: cost of living, economic opportunity, diversity, education, fun, i.e. amenities, the health and safety, the housing market, income and personal finance, and quality of life. And you tie that together with what the niche folks said, which was we are sitting in the #1 zip code in the state of Alabama to live in, 35758, and even the 35756 on the western side is number 12. And that, in addition, and then you tie together the dramatic growth that the city has had over basically 40 years. You start at 4,000 to 14,000 to 29,000 to 42,000, and now at 56,000. And, I guess on behalf of all of us here, I first want to thank everybody who's been a part of this. That's mayors, that's former councilmen, that's former department heads, that's definitely our employees. There's a lot of management that goes into this. And when we were named number 49 by Money Magazine in 2009, that's a heck of an honor. But then on top of that, grow by almost 14,000 people and still increase that ranking, there's a bunch of people that are working hard to make that happen. And this budget is part of what we do. It defines our quality of life. And what we're doing with our mission statement is to improve our quality of life by taking the money that we're given and stretching it as far as we possibly can. So I thought real quick I'd talk about maybe what's happened over the last 3 or 4 years. When it comes to our revenues, we were right at $39 million in 2019, and then we went up to $45 million in 2020. Those are audited. Our 2021 budget had $40 million, and this budget will be at $46 million. When it comes to our expenses, they go from $36 million up to $55 million in 2020. And while that looks like deficit, spending, in essence, in one sense it is, And part of that comes from what we're most, if you go down to the fund balance at the very bottom, the fund balance as of today sits at $27 million. So one of the things that we know we need to do as a city, while we've managed it incredibly well, that money needs to be spent on our citizens. And so you'll see even one of the things that as a conservative city, we're going to spend that money while making sure that we still have money in the bank just in case. And you can see in 2019, we had almost $15.5 million, about 40% of our fund balance. This year, we're budgeting to have about 36%, and that'll be at about $17 million. We will still be in good shape while spending about $56 million of expenditures and other financial uses. So very proud of that fact of it. One of the biggest things that I would want our citizens to know is that we typically would subsidize our budget with our bond money. We would make sure the general fund, we had to transfer money over to keep going with the taxes that we were given in sales and property tax. But as you can see over the course of the last couple of years, we've gone from $2 million in 2020. We only had used $500,000 last year, and this year's budget does not subsidize any of the general fund with the bond fund 10 transfer. So that's money that we have to be able to use for bigger projects, to use to sometimes bond a lot of these road projects, and that's a big deal. One of the bigger deals for us is our employee investment. For the 5th straight year, we will be able to give our employees a step increase. And for the 5th straight year, we will not ask our employees to pay any additional insurance payments. I'll go into that a little bit more. That's a major deal for our employees. And one, I think in a lot of instances, I know, they kind of, and I think some of them would take it for granted because I know sometimes I do. As someone who is single, that all my boys now are off my insurance, and I don't pay anything. That's huge, and for families, we're subsidizing that. We'll show that in a minute. But the other part of that is we've done more with less for years. And because our city has grown to the level that it needs to, if we're going to continue to support quality of life, we have to do it with some additional employees. 6 in fire, 4 in police, 3 in recreation and public works, and then 1 each for HR, court, engineering, and IT. So that investment is both for external and internal customers. We want to make sure that the folks that we're taking care of are properly taken care of. It starts with public safety. It ends in many instances with a lot of those other things that we're doing in the different departments that are critical to the city. This is really hard to see, but what it basically tells you is over the course of the last few years, we've gone from 2.6 to almost $4 million in what the city spends on insurance. That's because we're taking the hit in many instances and not passing along the increases that we receive. And I can tell you we receive smaller increases because what the HR team does for us in managing this, and one of the things that they did in 2016 is worked with our employees to go from Blue Cross Blue Shield full insurance to LG HIP, which was an employee-based decision with each department having a representative, and that's made a major impact for our city. Some of the things that are in this budget come, a lot of this is in engineering. You'll see it's a pretty big increase, and it's like, what is that? Well, I'm going to start at the bottom. The main part of that is a complete redo of Madison Boulevard, resurfacing and signalization from County Line to Zert. That includes a bridge repair. Then I'll go back up to the top. It's a printer. We're also replacing 2 bridges on Palmer Road. People, a lot of times when we added the Huntsville Utilities franchise fee, that's what that money is going to be spent on this year, is safety close to one of the biggest parks that we have in Palmer Park. 2 bridges that I think are 1930s bridges, something along those lines, that are weight restricted, that are just, we need to replace those. In addition, the hardware for the controller at Mill and Hardeman, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, a mini roundabout at ECU and Victoria to keep folks moving through there, the Oakland Springs Greenway, finishing our TAP grant for safety, getting folks on the Bradford Farms to Rainbow Elementary, a lift station that's needed over on the west side over in the Oakland Springs, and again, I've already talked about the other 2. But some of the other things that are critical, we do about $1 million a year in neighborhood repaving. Unfortunately, this year, we haven't been able to get the pavers to get done what we had this year. So there's about $2 million almost in repaving in next year's budget, so we take care of what was on the books this year and add the ones that are in next year. We're going to do space improvements for city clerk office, IT, movement, and Madison Police. As those departments grow and especially in the city clerk's office that really hasn't had anything done in about 20 years, we want to make it more efficient for them and our internal and external citizens and employees. We're going to repave Hughes Road from Madison Boulevard to Plaza, repave Jetplex Circle. One of the biggest things on Wall Triana, where we won't make any stretch it out, we are going to repave it, restripe it from the railroad tracks to Gooch. So restriping will make a big difference as far as the visibility on that road. Repave Bowers, we'll do the Main and Martin Street drainage project, Lime Quarry sidewalk over close to the golf course and the new complex that's going in there, a Gillespie sidewalk from Walden Preserve, and I know it says Reserve, Walden Preserve to County Line. You know, we've added in the comprehensive plan, and that's one of the things that this council asked is, okay, we know where we are now, but where are we headed? And that's citizen involvement. That's how long is that, Mary Beth? Almost a 2-year process? About a year and a half. And that's where we want to hear from our citizens. There'll be full engagement. You know, many times we're talking transparency, that's how they get involved. They did with the growth plan in 2012. This is our next ability, but it takes all of it into impact. And then Kids Kingdom renovation, we're going to spend about $700,000. The good news is when we have the Madison Visionary Partners in place, they've already secured about $250,000 worth of donations. I was in a meeting last week along with Steve Smith, where we have other organizations that are looking to add to that. We're going to take that cost to the city down in renovating that incredibly great Kids Kingdom, and MVP will be a big part of that. And then carryover projects on the Gooch sidewalk, the Dublin HVAC, and our phone system that we already have approved but didn't get done this year. They'll roll over into next year. Some quick capital purchases, 6 police vehicles, the traffic maintenance control software for Public Works. What that means to our citizens is when traffic signals aren't making sense, when we need to shorten them, lengthen them based on times of year, schools and so forth, they can now do that with software from their desk instead of having to manually go out and do that each and every time. A compressor for the fire CBA units, a new fire truck, and then building department gets a truck. One of our most valuable partners is Commissioner Haraway, and each and every year he comes in and says, how can I help? It's the citizens' money, but where can we spend it in the best possible way? So he's going to take one of the police vehicles, an equipment trailer for Public Works, and 11 fire airbags and controller sets to the tune of about $117,000. One of the things that we received last year was CARES Act funding of about $2.4 million. Where is that going to be used? Well, we approved this year about $300,000 for park renovations. Next year, we're going to do about $400,000 more. Last year, we bought a pumper truck, a fire truck, just with this cash of $520,000. One of the neatest things, and I think we're going to get Sarah Sledge to come in next council meeting and show the community what Outlay is. It's a library digital service system that anybody can download books, music, whatever they would like. And then outside agencies. You know, we invested some of the CARES Act money in some of the things that would make a difference for this community. Big Brothers Big Sisters, HEALS, Thrive as far as the testing, Fantasy Playhouse, and then Wellstone, which is Wellstone Behavioral of $10,000. That leaves us about $1.1 million that we're going to invest into the building formerly known as Three Springs, which would be how we're going to use that money. And then when we talk about the building formerly known as Three Springs, the estimated cost of that's about $10 million. I think we've got a great comprehensive picture and plan of that right now. We're still tweaking that. But in the 2022 budget, this year's budget, we invest in Turner Construction and the architects to the tune of about $1 million. And then we take the construction cost for year one of about $1.5 million. So we'll spend about $2.5 million, a little under that. That's that CARES Act funding that we just talked about. But also it's the proceeds from the old library. When we sold that, we've had that in the bank in one of the mason jars that Roger buried someplace. We're going to pull that back out and put that to use in turning that entire complex of 30 acres and 30,000 square feet into a community center that we all can use and are very proud of. And then a couple of things that we're going to design this year, so it's budgeted in our budget this year, but construct in 2023, the Bradley Street improvements, the Burgreen roundabout at Browns Ferry, the Old Madison Pike Hughes intersection, which we're going to do some work on in engineering, Oakland Springs Greenway Phase 2, and the Mill Road / Oak Street, and that's a grading issue for our fire trucks that we have to make a difference in. So I'm going to close where I started, and that is just how proud I am, I know as a mayor, and I know this council is, to continue to be a part of a community that continues to get the validation of these rankings from outside agencies. It does not happen unless our team, and that's the team of our department heads who manage our employees, but this mayor and council working together to take the citizens' money and stretch it as far as we can. And so, Teddy, with that, that's the presentation, and I guess we'll hand it back to you to try to get the adoption of the budget.
And with that, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I just want to add a big thank you to Roger Bellamy, our finance director. I'm the newest member on the finance committee, and when I first came on board and started my term, I sat down with him with the FY21 budget just to try to understand all of the different funds, and he's probably the most transparent and open director that we have here at City Hall, and I have had a lot of fun working with him. Yes, fun. I love looking at numbers and spreadsheets, and I love that he explains things so well, and so he has been so patient, and that made the process that much easier when it came time to build this budget. One of the things that you'll notice when you look at any budget is it really does tell you what the priorities of the institution is. And what you're going to see in this budget, as the mayor spelled out, is a real investment in people and roads and infrastructure. And so we're trying to take care of Madison residents. So I just want to thank you, Roger, and everyone who had a hand in building this budget.
Very good. Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell.
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett.
Aye.
Council President Shaw.
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski.
Aye.
Councilmember Spears.
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
My motion passes.
All I've got.
All right. District number 5.
Last week, the Huntsville-Madison County Library Board met, and we approved our budget as well. And a big thank you goes out to Huntsville City, Madison County, and Madison City for increasing their budget to meet certain needs. The mayor had mentioned digital services. That was on the rise, and so we are going to get that presentation at the next council meeting so you can see what some of the increase in the budget is. But thanks to all three entities for that. I was appointed to be on the library board's audit committee as a continuation of my hazing as the newest member of the public library committee. And so I'm not letting it go to my head, but I'll report back on that audit as I have on other audits that I've been a part of. My shop local spotlight this time is on leading edge trophies here in Madison off of Old Madison Pike. I know that I'm in chess season and I'm ordering lots of trophies, and I bet a lot of you are doing sporting events, so I just want to make sure you know that we have a business right here in Madison that you can support and order your medals and trophies, and that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you. District number 6.
All right, well, I'll just add my thanks to everybody that did work in this budget. It was very well done, and Teddy, thank you for sitting down and going through all of that. It was very, very helpful. First things, I would like to thank Michelle for working so hard on Hughes, and I really want to give a huge shout out to Kent Smith and his team. I've already gotten thank you notes he went through and he put down some asphalt in the holes that we're developing along the entrances to all of the neighborhoods right along Hughes here. And he just did it today, and it was wonderful to see, and I just really want to thank him for doing that. Also, I want to remind everybody that this Wednesday is the Police Citizen Advisory Board. It is their very first meeting. It'll be at 6 o'clock right here in the chambers. It is a great opportunity for everyone to start getting involved in just creating a really good working relationship between the police and the citizens. We've been working on this for months now, and it is thrilling that it is finally coming together this week. So anybody that can come, please make a point of it, and there'll be meet and greets to meet all of the people on the board. You can find out who's your representative and just develop a working relationship with them. I just have such high hopes for this to be something that really brings our community together, and I'm excited about it. Also, Senior Center, they continue to do so many new things. All you have to do is go to their website and just see, every day this week, they have different activities going on for all of us that are active and a little bit older. Also, last time we talked about Wavelength, and they did the donations, and they've already been given out at the bingo down at the Senior Center, and they were so grateful. So again, appreciation to Wavelength for doing that. And that is really about it. It was rather a quiet 2 weeks, I guess. A lot going on, so that's all.
Very good, thank you. District number 7.
Yeah, one thing, Madison Youth Basketball is currently in registration. As of today, you got, 3 more days to sign up through 30 September. There's a developmental league for $75 for ages 5 and 6, and 7U through 18U for $150. So you can find information about that on our website. About 10 games, usually it spans over Christmas. A few before, a few after, and then an end-of-season tournament for the 7U through the 18U leagues, primarily. So a lot of fun, and glad we get to do that this year. I know we've got some different venues where we'll play, so excited about that. So that's all.
Very good. So we don't have any board or committee appointments tonight. We'll move into public hearings. We have a couple.
Your first item is a public hearing on proposed ordinance 2021-271. This is to rezone on just over an acre property. This is on Highway 72 where Panera Bread is located. The property is currently zoned MC, which is a medical district, and the property owner is requesting a change to B3, which is our general business commercial. And you can see to the right or to the east, the red color indicates B3. So all of this property had been zoned B3, and at the time that a hospital was looking to locate in Madison, there were some different locations that were scouted out, and in order to prepare for the possible location of a hospital, the city created this medical center zoning district and rezoned a bunch of property medical center district. Along the way, the medical center district zoning got changed to not allow drive-through restaurants. Panera already had been built, and so when that change happened to the medical center district, Panera became non-conforming. So someone is looking to acquire the Panera, change ownership. They're concerned that it would be non-conforming, so in the event of a fire or something in which the building was destroyed, more than 50% under the ordinance, it couldn't be rebuilt as a drive-through. So they are requesting to rezone the property back to B3. Staff and the Planning Commission are supporting this. One of the primary reasons we're supporting this from a planning staff perspective is with the update to the zoning ordinance, which is slowly making its way through our system. We plan on getting rid of the medical center zoning district. It's a district that really doesn't need to exist, and so we plan on rezoning all of this property B3 at some point in the future anyway. So we are asking for your approval. We did not have any calls or concerns about this rezoning, and after the public hearing, happy to answer any questions.
All right, so we will open the public hearing. The applicant for the property may go first and will have up to 15 minutes to present their proposal. After that, anyone who's received formal notices may speak up to 5 minutes. After that, anyone of the general public can speak up to 5 minutes. Does anyone like to address Councilor or Mayor? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Ask for a motion.
Second.
Motion in a couple of seconds. Is there any discussion? Can I have the vote, please?
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Council President Shaw?
Aye. And motion passes.
All right. Your second public hearing is for proposed ordinance 2021-213, And this is to zone property upon annexation. This property is located at 10470 Seegers Road. You can see it's hashed there on the right. There's two hashed exhibits on this one, or two, I don't have a clicker, but it's the southerly one. This property is 3.56 acres. There's an existing single-family house on the property, and the family wishes to annex in for school purposes. And the Planning Commission and staff are supporting it, and there were no concerns or comments raised at the Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? If not, can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
And motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. And engineering.
I have one item for your consideration tonight. It's resolution number 2021-284R, acceptance of the Juan Property Subdivision Phase 2 into the City of Madison Maintenance Program.
No, go ahead, you gotta get the motion first.
Move to approve.
Second.
All the i's dotted, t's crossed.
It's all done.
Paul's supposed to ask that question.
I delegated.
Dude, you gotta be quick draw, man.
Motion and a second and discussion. Is there any other discussion?
Good.
Can we get the vote, please?
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Planning, Mary Beth, you back up.
We've missed you.
Alrighty, we have proposed ordinance 2021-290. This is vacation, request for vacation of a portion of a utility and drainage easement. You can see it demarcated on that exhibit. This property is at the northwest corner of Hughes Road and Madison Boulevard. There's been a plat approved, basically creating 3 parcels, and where this easement is located, utility and drainage easement, is actually going to be a private drive, so that the parcel that is along Hughes, which shown as 1 parcel is really 2, would have access to the parcel to the west along Lanier. And this is all in support of a new development going right at the corner for a Circle K. And so we are asking, this is just a first reading, so we'll be back next time, hopefully getting this approved.
Very good.
Your next item is proposed ordinance 2021-214, and this is for the annexation of the property at 10470 Seegers Road that we were just discussing from a zoning perspective. And we are supporting the annexation and would request your approval.
Second.
Move approve in a second. Do we have any discussion? If not, can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Police?
Good evening. Just one resolution for your consideration. Resolution 2021-291-R, authorization interagency drug enforcement task force agreement with Aaliyah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine, Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And motion passes. Thank you very much. We got revenue.
All right, sir. I think we just have one item for this evening. It's a first reading on proposed ordinance 2021-289 that is amending the business license fee ordinance for insurance other than fire and marine from $20 plus 1% up to $50 plus 1% of their premiums each year. This is possible because of the new 2020 census numbers. And the revenue from this would be about a little over $11,000 a year.
Yes, sir. This is first reading.
First reading.
Oh, my bad.
I'll be back.
Dadgummit.
Keep that thought.
We got city clerk.
Got our city attorney trying to jump in front of us.
Try and get me out of order.
Good evening. We have one item for you today, and it's to purchase software from Municode, transitioning from Granicus.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion second. Do we have any discussion? If not, can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And legal.
If you would let her go in front of me, you've been my favorite person. My favorite person tonight.
All right, I have a second reading on ordinance number 2021-279. This is an ordinance to grant an easement located in Home Place Park to Madison Utilities because they need to place an irrigation meter there. And you can see where the easement will be up on the screen. It's at the corner of Short Street and Shorter Street. And we'd like to ask for your approval this evening.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Can I get the vote, please?
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine, Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Is there any miscellaneous business or announcements? Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
So be it.